All right, everyone, get ready because today we are taking a deep dive into AI and scientific discovery. You know how we've always talked about technology speeding up those big breakthroughs?
Yeah.
Well, it's actually happening right now. And we found the super interesting research paper that basically takes us behind the scenes at this cutting edge R&D lab. These scientists are using AI to totally change how we think about material science.
Yeah, and what's really cool about this paper is it's not just theory. It's looking at how AI is changing the way scientists work in the real world and the things they're discovering.
Okay, so get this. They've seen a 44% increase in new material discoveries since they brought in this AI tool. Plus, patent filings are up 39%, and they've got 17% more product prototypes using all these new materials. So wait, are you telling me scientists can make discoveries almost twice as fast now just by using AI? That's kind of blowing my mind. I mean, what does this mean for the future of research?
It's huge. These numbers are way bigger than anything they saw with the old computational tools. It really shows that AI is on a whole other level when it comes to helping us do more. It's like giving every scientist a superpower.
Okay, I have to admit, this is pretty exciting stuff. But, part of me is a little skeptical. It sounds almost too good to be true? Is it possible they're sacrificing quality for speed? Like, are they just pumping out tons of new materials that aren't actually any good?
That's a good question. And it's something the researchers thought about too. They actually looked at quality directly in their study. They analyzed a bunch of properties of these new materials, like how their atoms are arranged, how they hold up under stress, all that stuff. Then they made these quality indexes based on all that data.
Hold on. Quality indexes.
Can you explain that a little more? Sure. Think of it like a scoring system for the new materials. These indexes measure things like how strong they are, how flexible they are, how well they conduct electricity. It's like a report card for each material. Scientists can use it to quickly compare them to the materials we already have.
Okay, that makes sense. So what did these report cards tell us about the AI-generated materials?
Well, the results were really clear. They're not just making more materials. These new materials are actually better than what they were making before.
Wow, that's amazing. So more materials and they're higher quality. But are we talking about totally new discoveries here or just slightly better versions of what we already have?
Right, that's the big question. With AI, you always have to think about the streetlight effect. Have you ever noticed how when you lose your keys at night, you only look under the streetlights?
Yeah.
It's the same with AI. It can sometimes get stuck just looking at what's obvious in the data.
Okay, so how do we know this AI is going beyond just tweaking old materials? What's the proof it's finding something totally new?
Well, the researchers tackle this by looking at novelty in three different ways.
Mhm.
The materials themselves, the patents being filed, and the products they're prototyping.
Okay, let's hear it.
First, they looked at the structures of these AI-generated materials, like down to the atoms, and they compared them to the materials we already know about. What they found was that these new materials had way more unique structures. It was like the AI was exploring a whole new world of design.
So, totally unique at the most basic level. Pretty wild. What about the patents?
All right, this is where it gets super interesting. The patents filed by the scientists using AI were a lot more likely to use completely new technical terms, which basically means they're coming up with potentially groundbreaking inventions. Remember, these patents are based on those crazy unique structures we were talking about. They're really pushing the limits of what's possible.
Wow. So the patents show that AI is helping scientists come up with really creative, potentially game-changing ideas. But are those ideas turning into actual new stuff? Are they actually making new products?
Yep, definitely. It's not just theory. What they found is that AI is shifting the entire focus of the lab. They're moving toward totally new product lines instead of just tweaking the old ones. That's a huge leap forward.
This is seriously mind-blowing. I can already see how AI could change not just material science, but so many other fields too. But there's one more thing we need to talk about. The research also found that this AI wasn't helping all the scientists in the same way.
That's right. It was one of the most surprising things they found. Turns out the AI actually made the differences in productivity between scientists even bigger.
So some scientists are just better at using AI like it's a talent.
That's pretty much it. The scientists who were already really productive before AI got even more productive with it, but the others didn't see much change. And it all comes down to this one skill.
Judgment.
Judgment. Okay, I'm hooked. Tell me more about how judgment plays into this.
Think about how you discover new materials. There are three main steps. First, you come up with ideas for new materials. Then you have to decide which ideas are actually worth testing. And finally, you do experiments. Right, that makes sense. So where does AI fit in? And why is judgment so important now?
Well, the AI tool basically does the first step for you coming up with ideas, which is already a huge deal. But that means humans still have to figure out which of those ideas are actually good enough to test.
So they're basically like a filter. They decide which of the AI's ideas are worth trying out in the real world. That sounds pretty important.
Oh, it is. And that's where this difference in productivity shows up. The scientists who are really good at judging AI ideas are the ones who get a huge boost in productivity because they know how to use the AI's insights effectively. But the others have trouble figuring out the good ideas from the bad. They waste time and energy chasing down ideas that don't work out.
This is really interesting. It's like AI is this super powerful tool, but you still need a skilled person to use it the right way. But what makes some scientists better at judging than others? Is it just luck or something else going on?
That's the question everyone wants to know the answer to. And the researchers wanted to find out too, so they asked all the scientists in the lab about how they made their judgments. They wanted to know what was going on in their minds when they were looking at the AI's ideas.
Okay, so what did they learn?
The biggest thing they found was that domain expertise is really important for working with AI.
So you need experience. It's not just about being good with technology, but about really knowing your field.
Exactly. The scientists who were good at evaluating the AI's suggestions, the ones who could tell the difference between the good and bad ideas, they were the ones who really knew their stuff. They used their experience to understand what the AI was suggesting. They weren't just following instructions, they were thinking for themselves. On the other hand, the scientists who had trouble making judgments often felt like all their training didn't matter anymore now that they had AI.
This is so important. It really goes against the idea that AI is going to make human experts obsolete. It seems like the opposite is true.
Absolutely. What this research shows is that in many fields, AI won't replace experts. It will make them even better. The key is figuring out how to work together with these new tools. And that means knowing a lot about your field.
This is really thought-provoking. But I also wonder about how this is affecting the scientists themselves. We've talked about how much more productive they are. But what about the ones who aren't seeing those benefits? Are they feeling discouraged or worried about their jobs in this new AI world? And what about the ones who are doing well? Is it all good for them? Or are there some downsides to this new way of working?
Those are really good questions. And actually, the researchers looked into those things too. And what they found is that it's not as simple of winners and losers. Even the scientists who are thriving with AI were experiencing some unexpected things.
Really? I want to hear all about that. But let's take a quick break first. We'll be right back to explore the human side of AI in the lab. So it sounds like AI is bringing some big changes to the world of science. But it's not all smooth sailing, right? We've got to think about how this tech impacts scientists' jobs, their creativity, even how they feel about their work.
Exactly. And the researchers actually dug into those questions too. They looked at how the scientists felt about their work now that they had AI in the mix. And it's interesting because while their belief that AI was making them more productive went way up, their fear about AI replacing them didn't change that much.
That's interesting. So even though they were seeing AI boosting their productivity, they were still worried about losing their jobs. I wonder why.
I think it goes back to that idea of judgment we were talking about. Even though AI was generating all those initial ideas, it was still up to the scientists to make the decisions. They were evaluating those suggestions, figuring out which ones were actually worth exploring.
So AI is like this powerful engine, but you still need a skilled driver to control it and get to the finish line.
I like that analogy.
Mm.
And speaking of skilled drivers, the research found that a lot more scientists were thinking about reskilling or upskilling because of this shift in responsibilities.
So they were realizing that they needed to adapt to this new AI world, right? To learn how to work with these intelligent machines.
Exactly. They understood that to stay relevant and competitive, they had to pick up new skills that would work alongside AI's capabilities.
I think that's a huge takeaway for everyone listening. Really, no matter what field you're in, AI is shaking things up across the board, and we all need to be ready to adapt and learn new skills to thrive in this new world.
I couldn't agree more. And it's not just about the technical stuff either. This research shows how important things like critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, and you guessed it, good judgment will continue to be.
Right, it's like AI is handling some of the grunt work, those tedious tasks, but it's still up to us humans to think critically and creatively to make those smart decisions that guide the process.
Absolutely. And here's where things get even more interesting. The researchers found that many scientists didn't quite expect how AI would actually change their day-to-day work.
What do you mean? Did they think it would just be about automating those boring, repetitive tasks?
Yeah, that's what they thought. They thought AI would free them up from all the drudgery, but it turns out AI was actually automating the part they enjoyed the most, coming up with new ideas.
Wow, that's a huge shift. It makes me wonder if we're underestimating how much AI can change not just what we do, but how we think about our work and what we value in it.
That's a big question, and it raises some important points. For example, how do we build these AI systems in a way that makes people happier in their jobs, not just more productive? How do we make sure people still feel engaged and creative even as AI takes on more of that ideation role?
Sounds like we're still figuring all this out. It's not as easy as just plugging in some AI and watching everything magically get better.
It's definitely not that simple. What this research really shows is that bringing AI into the workplace is complicated. There's a ton of potential, but we've got to be aware of the challenges too.
It's not just about the tech itself, it's about how we use it, how we adapt to it, and what kind of future we want to build with it.
Couldn't have said it better. We have a responsibility to shape this future so that it benefits everyone, not just a few.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
So before we move on to the last part of our conversation, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier. You said this research has implications for everyone, not just people in material science. What can people in other fields learn from these scientists?
Great question. I think what we're seeing in this lab is a glimpse into the future for a lot of industries. AI is becoming more and more powerful every day, and it has the potential to automate so many tasks, from writing code to making music to designing experiments.
And that's changing the skills that are needed in those fields.
Exactly. Just like those materials, scientists and all kinds of jobs will need to adapt and learn new skills that complement AI.
So what are some skills people should focus on if they want to stay ahead of the curve?
Well, the specific skills will depend on the field, but some key things are coming up over and over, things like critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, adaptability, and being able to work effectively with AI. These will be crucial for everyone.
It seems like those are all things that humans are really good at. They require that ingenuity and insight that even really smart machines might not be able to replicate.
You're exactly right. As amazing as AI is, it still doesn't have some of the qualities that make us human. Things like empathy, compassion, ethical judgment, and understanding complex emotions.
So as we move into this AI-driven future, we can't forget about our human side, right? It's not about competing with machines, but about finding ways to collaborate with them in a way that uses our strengths.
I completely agree. It's all about finding that balance where human ingenuity and AI's computational power can work together to do incredible things.
That's a great way to put it. And it reminds us that the future isn't set in stone. We have the power to shape it with the choices we make, and we need to make sure we're building a future that benefits everyone.
Absolutely. The decisions we make today will determine what kind of world we create for ourselves and for the generations that come after us.
Well said. Now, before we wrap up, I want to highlight one last thing that stood out to me in this research. The scientists who were most successful with AI weren't just good with tech. They were true experts in material science. They really knew their stuff.
That's a really important point. It tells us that expertise isn't going away in this new AI-powered world. In fact, it's more valuable than ever.
So those with a strong foundation of knowledge and experience will be the best equipped to use AI effectively.
Absolutely. They'll be the ones who can understand what AI is suggesting, spot potential problems, and guide the research process in the right direction.
That's really encouraging for anyone who's worried about AI taking over. It's not about being replaced, it's about becoming even better at what you do by learning to work with these powerful tools. It's about leveling up, not getting left behind.
And it reminds us that it's more important than ever to keep learning. In a world where technology is changing so fast, we need to be constantly expanding our knowledge, honing our skills, and embracing new ways of thinking.
I think that's a great message for our listeners. Embrace the challenge, stay curious, and never stop learning. But before we get too far ahead, let's pause here, and when we come back, we'll dive into some of the bigger philosophical questions that AI raises, and we'll leave you with something to think about. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground today talking about the potential of AI to revolutionize scientific discovery. But we also brought up some of those trickier questions, like how it affects scientists' jobs and even their own sense of creativity. This whole conversation has got me thinking, if AI can come up with ideas for new materials, write music, even create art, does that mean that human creativity is becoming less important?
That is a deep question. And honestly, I don't think there's an easy answer. AI can definitely create things that seem creative, But I think we need to be careful about how we define creativity. There are different types.
Okay, I like where this is going. Break it down for me. What are the different types of creativity?
Well, first you have what we can call combinatorial creativity. It's basically the ability to mix existing ideas or things in new and interesting ways. AI is really good at this kind of creativity because it can analyze tons of data and find patterns that we humans might miss.
So that's how it comes up with those unique material structures and creative patent ideas, right? It's like remixing everything it knows to create something new.
Exactly. It builds on what's already there,
Yeah.
but it also comes up with something surprising and innovative.
Okay, cool. So what about the other type of creativity?
The other type is what we might call transformational creativity. It's the ability to come up with truly original ideas, ideas that go beyond anything we already know. It's the kind of creativity that leads to those huge breakthroughs that change the world.
Oh, like Einstein's theory of relativity or the invention of the internet.
Exactly. Now, the question of whether AI can achieve that kind of transformational creativity, that's still a big debate. Some experts believe that AI could eventually get there, while others think there are limits to what AI can do.
Wow, it's fascinating. So even with AI getting smarter all the time, there's still a place for that special human spark.
I think so, and I think that's something to be excited about. AI is an incredible tool that can help us do amazing things. But it's still a tool. At the end of the day, it's up to us humans to use it wisely and to remember what makes us human.
I love that as we explore this new world of AI, we have to hold on to our humanity, our curiosity, and our sense of wonder.
It's a journey with a lot of uncertainty, but it's also a journey full of amazing possibilities.
Exactly. Who knows what incredible discoveries are waiting for us? And the coolest part is that we get to be a part of shaping this future.
It's a future we create together.
And with that thought, we'll leave you to ponder the potential and the challenges of AI. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of AI and scientific discovery. Until next time, keep exploring.